The Soul King's Military Unleashed, Part 7. Recap. So far, I've read off to you 5 different spiritual military branches. I'm going to do a recap on all 5 of them now and what they mean. So, the Spiritual Citizens Force. The Spiritual Citizens Force parable. Originally, the Citizens Force was called the National Guard, but in December 13th, 1636, they changed their name from the Citizens Force to the National Guard, according to the information that I've read. So, I'm going to give you a recap on all of them from their enlisted personnel branches on across, meaning I'm just going to list off the chapters and or the battles thereof to you. So, at E1, the Spiritual Citizens Force, Invasion Force, was of the 6 single-word awareness questions. Did you know that you can ask any question with just one word? Or did you know that you can ask a question with using just one word? For example, the 6 single-word awareness questions. Who, what, when, where, how, and why. Who, what, when, where, how, and why. The 6 single-word awareness questions Invasion Force Idol will be targeting the racist belief system pillar, destroying it and turning it into greed. The foul principality sin greed. I'm going to read it to you like this. The Spiritual Citizens Force, Invasion Force, are of the Perfect Love Infantry 9, consisting of the 6 single-word awareness questions, the simultaneous talk technique, the love expressions, and or the logical affection virus. And then at 4th, you got the Brighter Days soundtrack, soul battle rapping. You have the fitness gospel movement and wrestling with tribes for peace. That's all one idol right there. That's all one whole idol right there. I'm getting somewhere with this overall ultimately. You'll see where, once I get to the Air Force at least. Or should I say the Space Force? Parable. And then at E7, the Church and Mosque Domination Force, the tactic that's going to destroy the religious beliefs. And then at E8, you have the Spiritual Reawakening. And then at E9, the Annihilation of Fear series. The Spiritual Citizens Force purge targets are the 9 negative belief system pillars. The first one being racism, the second one being feminism, the third one being foul sexual orientation, the fourth one being the nerd geek culture. This belief system pillar categorizes the rich, middle class, and all of ye who have been poverty-stricken due to colonization worldwide. And now a fourth one is also getting added into it, the indigenous people. The fifth one being the gangsters. Did you know there are 33,000 gangs within the United States of America alone? The fifth one being, or the sixth one being the tribes. There are 5,000 tribes worldwide. The seventh one being the religions. There are 4,200 to 10,000 known religions worldwide. The oldest religions are Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, and Yoruba. They came out 5,000 years ago, according to the research I've gathered. Or Zoroastrianism came out 4,000 years ago, I believe it said. Was it 3,000 or 4,000? I just know that the Yoruba religion, and as well as the Yoruba religion as well as Hinduism came out. They both came out 5,000 years ago. You follow what I'm saying? And then the eighth one. The eighth one being the negative belief system pillar, ignorance. Ignorance being the eighth one. And then the ninth one being the devil driver itself. Or fear itself. The ninth one being the fear itself. Well, fear is the devil driver. Fear is the devil driver. You follow me? So, and then the domination forces of the Spiritual Citizens Force parable being of the following. The 9 foul principality sins. That's the outcome of it thereof. You follow what I'm saying? The 9 foul principality sins like wrath, greed, gluttony, and lust. Things of that nature. Those 9. And the Spiritual Citizens Force, Invasion Force, its purge targets. Once they take out the purge, the Perfect Love Infantry 9, the Invasion Force. The purge targets being the 9 negative belief system pillars. The Perfect Love Infantry 9 is going to destroy those 9 foul negative belief system pillars and turn them into the foul principality sins. The 9 foul principality sins, which moves me to the spiritual army parable. The spiritual army's invasion force being the 9 fragrant principality virtues. The 9 fragrant principality virtues. Their purge targets will be the 9 foul principality sins that just came about due to my invasion force from the citizens force, the spiritual citizens force. Spiritual citizens. forcing spiritual citizens into this world. Forcing spiritual citizens into this world. Why? Because the spirit is the knowledge of perfect love, essentially. Better than the knowledge of death, in which you all are forcing unto God daily. Why are you forcing all of this death unto God? What did God do to you to force all of this death and destruction unto it? Did you know, logically speaking, all of humanity is God? What did all of humanity do to you? Is humanity wrong in some kind of degree to you for you to force your wars and all of your chaos and all of your destruction unto it? What did humanity do to you? The spiritual army parable will consist of the 9 fragrant principality virtues, purge targets, the 9 foul principality sins, domination force, the 9 enemy regulation forces. Just as the recap. I'm going to read them off to you later. All of them later. And now the spiritual navy parable. Its invasion force, the 9 divine visual forces, and or the 9 major measurement words. Their purge targets will be the 9 enemy regulation forces, which just came about due to the spiritual army parable being sent in to do its damage unto the foul principalities thereof. And once the damage to the foul principalities was executed properly due to my 9 fragrant principality virtues, they become the 9 enemy regulation forces. Remember, this is all a spiritual parable. It's a soul parable. All of this is happening in the soul. All of it is. You follow me? Moving along. So, the spiritual navy 9 divine visual forces, or 9 major measurement words, targeting the enemy regulation forces, turning them into the 9 chakra system. Now we are in the 9, now it's the 9 chakra system. Remember, all of the information of this world consists of artificial ethnic coding. All of it does. You follow what I'm saying? And the artificial ethnic coding, it all derived from a very foul air, a very bad, foul air. That's what most of it is deriving from. Is it deriving from the people? No, only the actions that the foul air is putting into the people's minds do the people execute. But here's the thing. That's the core of the problem, though, the foul air. The foul air is the core of the problem. So how can we get rid of the core of the problem? By introducing a fragrant air. At least that's just one of the ways, because once we introduce the fragrant air, then it becomes the enemy regulation forces. And in order to destroy the enemy regulation forces, you have to be able to see them in every way possible. And that's where the 9 divine visual forces comes into play, or the 9 major measurement words. And then once those perform their activities, it becomes the 9 chakra system. At least the 9 enemy regulation forces becomes the artificial ethnic coding known as the 9 chakra system, or the chakra systems, period. Remember, a chakra is a spiritual power. That's all it is. A spiritual power. What I am using right now, spiritual powers. Telling you things. You follow what I'm saying? Next, the spiritual Marine Corps parable. What brings us back to the physical reality. The spiritual Marine Corps is the first step towards the spiritual reality. Or the spiritual Marine Corps parable, should I say. The spiritual Marine Corps parable's invasion force consists of the 9-dimensional base and or sword form parable. Form parable. Parable first, right? The purge targets being the 9 chakra system, the artificial ethnic coding known as the chakras. The root chakra, sacral chakra, and so on and so forth. Their domination force and or outcome of objective, the 9-dimensional base and or sword form. Form parable, and then just form right here. Once the Marine Corps parable is officially put into the spiritual air and planted properly thereof. And then we move on to the spiritual Coast Guard, the one that I just recently did. And I have to repeat these enlisted personnel to you. So, the enlisted personnel idols. At E1, the Soul Seaman Recruit, SR's Rank Chapter Invasion Force, the Taxonomy Hierarchy, or the Taxonomy Hierarchy. Purge targets, the White Leadership. Remember, the spiritual Coast Guard's parable, it consists of its invasion force, the 9-dimensional planetary enlightenment infantry. The spiritual Coast Guard's parable is the 9-dimensional planetary enlightenment infantry. Its purge targets the 9-dimensional base and or sword form, which just came about due to the spiritual Marine Corps parable being completed. In its domination force and or outcome of objectives, the 9-dimensional base and or sword form enlightenment. Remember, form parable, then just form, and now form enlightenment. You see? But it's a form and then something. Form parable, form, and form enlightenment now. The spiritual Coast Guard is going to manifest, once it's properly placed into the spirit, that is, the 9-dimensional base and/or sword form enlightenment. But everything else has to be experienced and/or planted into the spirit properly in order for us to get to this one where we can become the forms enlightenment. You follow what I'm saying? Now, E1, the Soul Seaman Recruit, SR's rank chapter Invasion Force, the taxonomy hierarchy, purge targets, white leadership, domination force, North America, Africa, enlightenment. So once this here taxonomy hierarchy, after everything else is played out properly, to get to this point here, the purge target will be the white leadership. But am I really targeting it to purge it out of existence though? Technically not. Just enhancing it. E2, the Soul Seaman Apprentice, SA's rank chapter Invasion Force, knowledge of DNA and RNA. DNA standing for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's a sugar, a natural sugar. We got God's sugar in us, y'all. We got God's sugar in us. You know better, you do better. We got natural God sugars in us that derive from source. You ever heard of the CSF? Cerebral, how do you say it? It's like brain juices. They are like a some kind of fluid, cerebral spinal fluid, I believe that's what it's called. But it's a brain juice that derives from our DNA as well, and which helps protect our brains from certain injuries. Did you also know too that when you take a look at our brain, like cut in half on some kind of diagram, you'll see similarities to that of the Eye of Ra and or the Eye of Horus, which in reality is the Eye of Yahawashi. The Eye of Yahawashi. My Yahawashi. Moving forward. E3 or E2, once again, the Soul Seaman Apprentice or SA's rank chapter Invasion Force, knowledge of DNA and RNA, purge targets, the white fighters, domination force, South America, Africa, enlightenment. E3, the Soul Seaman, SN's rank chapter Invasion Force, the 3 branches and or strands of science, purge targets, the white civilians, domination force, Africa, enlightenment. Why do I say Africa? Because when you look at the media, you'll see all of Africa spelled with an AFRICA. Lately, I've been seeing it spelt with the way Dr. Umar Johnson had it spelt, AFRIKA. But then I've done some even further research, or I've done some more studying, and I found that there is an Africa spelt with an AFRAKA. That's the one I'm going to use, me personally. You don't have to. I'm just going to use it. Why? Because AF translates to first. I don't know exactly which originated source these words are defined as. I'm sure it's most likely some kind of Greek or rabbinical Hebrew, or just Hebrew or Latin, maybe. But Af means first. Sure, it's probably Sumerian. Maybe it is. I haven't looked it up yet. Af means first. I just know that the video that I saw, this information that broke down what Afrika means. Af means first. Ra means sun. Ra is in Egyptian mythology. And Ka means soul, like the Merkaba. Mer, light, soul, Ka, body. Ba. Merkaba. Africa, you see. Africa translates to first sun soul. That's why I use the Africa, that's why I spell Africa the way I spell it. With the AFRAKA. And now, the non-commissioned officer idols. E4, the Soul Petty Officer 3rd Class, or PO3's rank chapter Invasion Force, the Periodic Table of Elements, purge target, the Black Civilians, Domination Force, Australia, Oceania, Africa, enlightenment. Going for enlightenment. Remember, the 9-dimensional base form is the white leadership, the white fighters, the white civilians. The black civilians, the black fighters, the black leadership. The soul standard, the soul driver, and the soul grounds. That there is your 9-dimensional base form. And this 9-dimensional planetary enlightenment infantry, which when I'm reading off to you right now, I'm at E5, this is what's going to turn it into the enlightenment form, or the enlightened stage of itself. It's a reason for it. You'll see why. I'm picking these certain things to enlighten you for a reason. So, E4, once again, the Soul Petty Officer, 3rd class. PO3's rank chapter Invasion Force, periodic table of elements, purge target black civilians, domination force, Australia, Oceania, Africa enlightenment. At E5, the Sole Petty Officer 2nd class. PO2's rank chapter Invasion Force, Walter Russell's periodic chart of elements, purge targets to black fighters, domination force, Asia, Africa enlightenment. Moving along, E6, the Sole Petty Officer 1st class, PO1's rank chapter Invasion Force, the 4 fundamental forces of nature. I look forward to really telling you how to comprehend the 4 fundamental forces of nature. Think of this for a moment, if you would. The 4 fundamental forces of nature, what are they? The gravitational force, the electromagnetic force, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. The gravitational force, the water element derives from this information. If you want it, you can look. If you want to, you can look at it like this. The weak nuclear force. The air element derives from the weak nuclear force. The electromagnetic force. The fire element derives from the electromagnetic force. And the strong nuclear force. The earth element, or the rock element, or the solid element derives from the strong nuclear force. Gravity, water, electromagnetic, fire, strong, rock, weak, air. You follow what I'm saying? I want you to grasp this. The water element, gravitational force, it's like critical knowledge in a sense. Weight, heavy knowledge. Knowledge that's going to have bearing upon thine grounds, so to speak. That's the strong nuclear force, the effect on the grounds, the effect of the grounds, the effect that'll bring the environment to a more balanced positioning. Remember, I'm all about forcing things that are imbalanced to go back to balance. Making things which are imbalanced go back to balance. That's what I'm all about. You follow me? The critical knowledge is the water element. Righteous rage being the fire element from the electromagnetic force. The strong nuclear force. The rock element. Grounds. Solid character. Solid stance. You follow me? You see where I'm going with this? You accept this standard and no other standard, and you stand on these grounds solidly, solid in this character. I don't choose or accept any other standard other than the soul standard. You follow what I'm saying? You can say things like this. And then the weak nuclear force, the air element, perfect love. But see, here's the thing: you cannot have the knowledge of perfect love without being told how it operates. You follow me? So in other words, it's almost like the water element and the air element have no other option but to be presented from myself in order to be understood. You follow what I'm saying? No other option. I have no other option but to tell you this way. You follow what I'm saying? So, moving along now. I really want you to grasp the 4 fundamental forces of nature. I really would like for you to grasp that. Moving along. And E6, let me just read it again. The Sole Petty Officer 1st class, PO1's rank chapter Invasion Force, the 4 fundamental forces of nature, purge target, the black leadership, domination force, Europe, Africa, enlightenment. Europe, Africa, enlightenment. You see, remember, this is a planetary enlightenment infantry, getting everybody to see and or stand on the same grounds. Now the senior non-commissioned officer idols. Sole Chief Petty Officer, or CPO's rank chapter Invasion Force, the 12 zodiac sign elements, or the 12 elemental zodiac signs, or the 12 zodiac element signs, however you'd like to say it. But it's just more connections to those 4 major elements, you see. All of this is proving God's innocence, whether you know it or not. I'll explain to you later in another video though, because I have to get somewhere else first. E7, the Sole Chief Petty Officer, CPO's rank chapter Invasion Force, the 12 zodiac sign elements. Purge target, the Soul Standard. Domination Force, the Sun Soul's enlightenment. The Sun Soul's enlightenment. E8, the Soul Senior Chief Petty Officer, or SCPO's, which is a technical position at E8. And then the Soul Command Senior Chief Petty Officer, CSCPOs, which is an administrative rank in their ranks and or in their information. Its rank chapter Invasion Force will be meteorology, and from meteorology, or the topic of meteorology, the 7 SI base units, or the 7 base SI units. What are the 7 base SI units? Information from the country known as France over in Asia that talks about how to measure any frequency properly. Look up the 7 base SI units. Stands for Systeme International Units. Purge Target, the Soul Driver. Domination Force, the Heavenly Father's Enlightenment. And lastly, E9, the Soul Master Chief Petty Officer, MCPOs. Soul Command Master Chief Petty Officer, CMCPOs. And Soul Master Chief Petty Officer of the Spiritual Coast Guard, MCPOCs. Rank Chapter, messed up, missed the word, missed the letter. MCPOCGs, Rank Chapter Invasion Force. Sacred geometric symbols, like the Flower of Life, or the Merkaba, or the Kabbalah, or the Metatron, or the Hexagram, Star of David. Multiple, many of them. Do I rock with, or do I honestly work with, or like to use the sacred geometric symbols? Not necessarily. Reason why is because it puts caps on your marvelous infinite dimensional vision. All of the sacred geometric symbols, even the Tree of Life, they put caps on your marvelous infinite dimensional thinking mind capabilities. However, they are still good or able to be utilized because they are also codes or ciphers to help us remember who and or what we all truly are, so that the devil or whatever is trying to drive humanity to being anchored down into this pit of failing at everything, suffering and death, staying at that spot you want and dying faster in it. Agendas manifesting, if that makes sense to you. Moving forward. So, purge targets being the soul's grounds, where we are all standing currently, the stage. Domination force, the ethereal mother's enlightenment, and that there completes your 9-dimensional base and or soar form enlightenment. Next, where we are today. This is going to be a short one, rather. The Soul King's Military Entrenchment Saga, Part 6 of 9. Stage, the established Soul Tribe family grounds. Branch, the Spiritual Public Health Services, PHS parable, which is of the Perfect Love Officers. That's what they're called in the PHS officers. So I'm gonna call them Perfect Love Officers, because I'm putting perfect love into this world so it can destroy foul love. Facts. Established July 16th, 1798, and currently under the Department of Health and Human Services, which was established in the year 1953. They don't have an invasion force, and the reason why they don't have an invasion force is because they're not necessarily a on-the-field type of military. They are of the uniform service branches, though. This is why I count them into this entire ordeal. I count them in it because they are of the uniform services. The public health services are. So I made a spiritual public health services parable. But here's the thing, though. Even though it doesn't have an invasion force, it still involves what could be known as the 9 solfeggio frequencies. The 9 solfeggio frequencies, you follow what I'm saying? Or the 9 solfeggio healing frequencies. They're purge targets. Well, they don't necessarily have purge targets either, because there is no fighting. It doesn't have a fighting force. The PHS is not a fighting force. It's just a uniform service. But what will be getting introduced into this parable towards what is being introduced towards the 9 solfeggio healing frequencies being introduced towards the 9-dimensional base and or soar form enlightenment. I'm getting somewhere. Now watch this. The domination force and or outcome of this here objective. The 9-dimensional base and or soar form transcendence. Always remember, never forget. Taking your world back manifests in the form of recovery, for recovery is simply a return back to normality. So, the 9 solfeggio healing frequencies, their targets and or their enhancements, so to speak, will be the 9-dimensional base and or soar form enlightenment, the domination force and or outcome of this objective. Once I introduce it to you, the 9-dimensional base and or soar form transcendence. The transcendence There's a reason why you have to know certain things before you get to a certain point to do what's next. So, no enlisted personnel for the spiritual public health services. But here's what they'll be targeting. Here's what the health services will be targeting. North America, Africa Enlightened. South America, Africa Enlightened. Africa Enlightened. Australia, Oceania, Africa Enlightened. I have to say it out loud. Asia, Africa Enlightened. Europe, Africa Enlightened. The Sun Soul Enlightened. The Heavenly Father Enlightened. And the Ethereal Mother, which is my home, Enlightened. Now, the 9 solfeggio healing frequencies. One thing about the spiritual health services or the public health services is that they have commissioned officer ranks, and that's all they have are commissioned officer ranks. From what I've studied, I'm sure they have entry levels and whatnot, but from what I've studied so far, they just have the commissioned officer ranks. So I have things set up for them. So starting with the junior grade officer idols for the commissioned officer idols within the spiritual public health services parable at 01, the soul ensign or ENS's rank chapter, its domination force and/or its outcome of objectives. Because remember, the goal is to get us all to a transcendent state using this parable here. The definition of solfeggio, the literal definition of solfeggio, what is it? Go find it out, and that'll be your idol for the soul ensign's rank chapter in this here spiritual public health services parable. It's really just talking about music, healing music that derive from your chakras abilities. Speaking of which, Eddie, because don't forget, I also have the chakras as the foundational base for this entire parable to work here. So at E1, I have the root chakra for North America, Africa Enlightened. E2, sacral for South America. E3, solar plexus for Africa. E4, heart chakra for Australia. E5, throat chakra for Asia. Third eye for Europe. The crown chakra for the sun soul. Why do I have the crown chakra here for the sun soul? Because our entire body starts from the crown on down to the feet. We are the sun soul. But who was the first one? At E8, the soul star chakra, meaning the heavenly fathers. The heavenly fathers chakra. And then the earth star chakra. Can you take a guess? The ethereal mothers. You follow me? All lined up as the foundation for it thereof. And these here 9 solfeggio frequencies, with a couple of other things added to it, are going to be targeting these here continents of information, these continents, the people of these continents for their enlightenment. It's all about global enlightenment. Once the Soul King's military is unleashed, it's going to essentially force this entire world to stand and spectate upon equal soul grounds. Why are you destroying God? What did God do to you? From what I can tell, God just gave you life. So why are you giving God the opposite? All of humanity is God. Why are you giving humanity the opposite of what it is? Stop doing it. Maybe some convincing will help you. At 02, the Soul Lieutenant Junior Grade, or LTJG's rank chapter, outcome of objectives. The root healing frequency, 396 hertz, that says, Ut Quint Laxus. The words are hard to pronounce, but it means nirvana. Like I said, all of these are just characteristics that derive from the infinite source to, within, and throughout all of humanity. Duplicate what you are. Duplicate, respect what you are. You follow what I'm saying? Oklahoma bugs ain't no joke. Moving forward. At 03, the Soul Lieutenant, or LT's rank chapter. Triple O's. Triple O's, OOO, meaning outcome of objective. The Sacral Healing Frequency, which is 417 hertz. Resonare Fibris, which means virtues. At 04, the mid-grade officer idols now. The Soul Lieutenant Commander, or LCDR's rank chapter, Triple O's. Outcome of objectives, the Solar Plexus Healing Frequency, 528 hertz. It says Mira Gestorum. Think of it this way. O re mi fa sol la ti da. That's what it's going to be. That's the coding for that's the coding for the 9 solfeggio healing frequencies comprehension. That sound there. O re mi fa sol la ti da. Fa sol la ti da. I'm not a singer. The solar plexus healing frequency, 528 hertz. Mi Rajestorum, meaning intuition. 05, the Soul Commander, or CDR's rank chapter, Triple O's. The heart chakra's healing frequency, 639 hertz. Fa Muli Turum, meaning harmonizing. Harmonizing with this infinite source of the universe. Just character traits. The other things are they're not difficult to say anymore. Or at least they're not going to be. But knowing them is key to understanding the rest of the information thereof. In 06, the Soul Captain's CAPT's ranked chapter outcome of objectives. The Vishuddha and or throat chakra's healing frequency, which is 741 hertz. Soul Paluti, meaning Gesundheit. Gesundheit? Yeah, I just threw this in here for kicks and giggles. It just means good health. That's what the word Gesundheit means. It's a German word for good health. Remember how you would say bless you to somebody when they sneeze? You'd also say Gesundheit or Gesundheit. That's how you actually say the word properly, Gesundheit. The word sun is in that word, Gesundheit. It just means good health. So when somebody sneezes, say Gesundheit to them. You're also using the 741 hertz healing frequency, solfeggio, when you say Gesundheit to people. Just a random thought. Flag officer idols. The 1-star rank. The Soul Rear Admiral Lower Half, or RDML's rank chapter domination force, or triple O's. The Third Eye's healing frequency, 852 hertz. Labi Ratum, La. It means reclamation. Spiritual reclamation. Reclaiming what's yours, getting things back to normal. Resetting your expectations on the soul. Resetting your expectations on the soul's grounds.